In addition to that, one of the things that they've been saying is that it's a beef. That when Elon Musk came to visit Trump, and that when they have their cabinet meetings, a lot of times they're trying to say that essentially what's happening is that they're having a kerfuffle. And one of the people that got into it was Elon Musk and Marco Rubio. So I want to look at this from both lenses, all right? First, I want to look at it from the lens of the liberal view. And obviously, there's no more liberal view than MSNBC. So first, we're going to look at it from the liberal view, and then we're going to get Caroline Leavitt's perspective of exactly what happened. But this is what was being reported over the weekend.
Some brand new reporting in the New York Times today on a confrontation of sorts inside the White House between Elon Musk and...
She's so excited to report this. There's some conversations. She's so excited to report this, too.
Several members of Donald Trump's new cabinet, with Donald Trump sort of reduced to the role of spectator. The Times cites 5 people with knowledge of the confrontation, reports this about an argument between Elon Musk and Marco Rubio. Quote, "You fired nobody," Musk told Rubio, then scornfully added that perhaps the only person he had fired was a staff member from his Department of Government Efficiency. Rubio had been privately furious with Musk for weeks, ever since his Doge team effectively shuttered an entire agency that was supposedly under Rubio's control, the United States Agency for International Development. Musk was not being truthful, Rubio said. What about the more than 1,500 State Department officials who took early retirement in buyouts? Didn't they count as layoffs, he asked sarcastically, whether Musk wanted him to rehire all those people just so he can make a show of firing them again. Then he laid out his detailed plans for reorganizing the State Department. Musk was unimpressed. He told Rubio he was, quote, good on TV, with the clear subtext being he wasn't good for much else. Where was Donald Trump in all this? The Times reports that he sat back as if he was watching a tennis match. Ultimately, he, quote, intervened to defend, wait for it, Rubio. Said he was doing a great job. Rubio has a lot to deal with, the president said. He's very busy. He's always traveling and on TV. And he has an agency to run. So everyone just needs to work together, end quote. And then for the first time since his inauguration, Trump put some restraints on Elon Musk. From this reporting, quote, from now on, he said, the secretaries would be in charge. The Musk team will only advise. Joining our coverage, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation.
Oh, not Bobblehead. Okay, we'll get to Bobblehead in a minute. I want to get his opinion because we got to be fair and we got to be equal and we got to make sure that we get the liberal perspective as well as getting the conservative perspective, all right? So, in short, they basically have these meetings, which is, in my opinion, not abnormal in any corporate environment, where the closed door meetings are the ones where you actually solve for the problems and you have the differences of opinion and the differences in industries and whatever it is that you got going on within your company, right? The different departments and the department heads come in and they say what they really thinking and they have these conversations so that they can figure out exactly how they can go move forward as a company, right? So it's not any different than what happens inside of your household, what happened inside of corporate America. Assuming that this is what happened, you have tough conversations between the competing heads of what's best for the company itself. In this instance, the company just so happened to be the United States of America. On one side, you got Elon Musk, who is a business owner and is regularly going through to try to figure out where the waste is, who's stealing, who not, what agencies need to still be there, and where we got government too big that's taking advantage of the American taxpayers. On the flip side, you have different people that challenge him, including Marco Rubio, which in my opinion, this is a healthy way to run a company and to run a government. It's not supposed to be kumbaya unless you open up the doors and then everybody is on one accord after we solve for the issues. On the other side, you got Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, according to MSNBC and New York Times, the New York Times is saying, listen, this is my agency over here. I don't want you to cut all of these people. And then Elon Musk is saying, well, what is they doing and what value do they add to the American people? And so you have a clash between two people that have a similar interest to make sure that the United States of America is running efficiently, but at the same time, they have different ideas as to how this thing is supposed to go through. I believe that this is great. If this is true, if this is exactly how it went, I believe this is beautiful. And one of the beauties of it is that you then have the CEO in Trump that says, okay, let me listen to both sides. Let me let y'all fight it out. Now I'm going to insert myself and say, this is how we're going to do it after I hear from both sides. I think this is absolutely beautiful. 100% gorgeous in the way that they're handling what's happening inside of the administration. But let's get Reverend Bobblehead in here to get his perspective.
Team will only advise.
We already know that the Democrats are going to say this is because they're rambling and they don't know, and Trump is not the president, and Elon Musk has been having the reins. We already know what the Democrats is going to say, but let's give them a chance to be able to explain how they see it.
Our coverage, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, president of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton, joins us. Christy and Michael are still here. Rev, I have been watching the Bannon-Musk power struggle with keen interest since it first emerged during the campaign. And I think I said on television, do not ever bet against the guy who was willing to go to jail to not testify before Congress, and the guy who sort of in I don't know if his life, I don't know enough about his life, but who seems to understand the base and the most powerful elements of the Trump base better than anybody in Trump land, and that is Steve Bannon. And I don't have any idea if Bannon has any role in all this, but it does seem like Musk has stumbled, not by taking more attention from Trump, which is how most people stumble, but by dirtying him up politically. The things that Musk is doing are not popular among Republican voters in Republican districts.
That's the whole point. I think that Musk could get away with a lot, but he cannot in any way endanger his popularity. When he starts seeing polls coming down based on things that Musk got him to do or that Musk did in his name, that gets his attention. You got to remember, a narcissist is about him. And when you are doing things that...
Are we using talking points from modern women that's mad at their baby daddies now? Seriously? We don't look at it from a business perspective. We're not talking about exactly what's happening in these government agencies. We're not talking about the fraud, waste, and abuse. We're not talking about the power dynamics of how you go about negotiating the best deals or letting people from different agencies have their say and having that storming, norming, forming phase within any organization. We start using words like narcissist. Narcissist might be the most overused word ever. Narcissist, in my opinion, may be, now I could be wrong, but narcissist may be the most overused word inside of any situation today, personally.
In any way injures or besmirches the image of the narcissist, he's got to react. All the logic in the world doesn't matter. Everything else doesn't matter. But wait a minute, he's making me look bad. I don't care how rich he is. And I think that that's what Musk is going to run into here.
What's interesting, though, is that this is a different Trump because the co-presidency has been going on since the beginning, and that doesn't bother.
You see how they throw shots? The co-presidency. Let's let them continue to talk.
Trump. What bothers him and what has always, I think, sustained him politically is this reptilian survival sense that if all the Republicans are voted out of office in 2 years, that is a much bumpier road.
It's a much bumpier road. He knows that it will kill anything that he wants to leave as a legacy. And he has no way of stopping that if the polls keep dropping. I think that we really have to understand Donald Trump, at the end of the day, is about Donald Trump. And he's not going to share that with anyone. Spotlight, he doesn't care. He knows he's the president and Musk is not the president and never will be. But what he doesn't want to be is an unpopular president with no legacy. He wants the Trump library. I mean, what does he do after he leaves? He can't change the law and run a third time. That's just talk. He wants the library. He wants to be respected. He wants people to want him to come around the world. And if
He's going
Musk...
to build Trump Mars.
That's right.
All these rocket men in his pocket.
That's right. I mean...
All right, so this is pretty much going off the rails, and this is pretty stupid. But here's Caroline going in and explaining exactly what happened to Fox between Marco Rubio and Elon Musk.
A busy week on Capitol Hill as House Republicans expect to vote Tuesday on a new spending bill that would keep the federal government open through September 30th.
Without action from Congress, the government will shut down Friday.
Every president, I believe, get a presidential library. Obama's is still being built over in Chicago, a place where he doesn't even live.
And Democrats seem dead set on forcing that to happen.
Here with a preview on what we can expect, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Great to see you this morning, Caroline. Thank you for joining us. So, as you know by now, trying to get Congress to do anything is a little bit like herding cats. But you guys feel pretty comfortable about where you are right now.
Yes, we do. And this week, government funding will run out, and House Republicans have negotiated and led a clean continuing resolution, which President Trump fully supports. And he is counting on Republicans on Capitol Hill to work together to unite to get this clean CR passed. On November 5th, the American people gave Republicans and President Trump a historic, overwhelming mandate to govern. And it would be a gift to the Democrats to allow them to shut down the government and therefore shut down the momentum that President Trump and Republicans have built over the last 7 weeks. So this clean CR, we need it to pass. It effectively curbs spending, freezes spending, while allowing the government to continue to function, allowing ICE agents and Border Patrol to continue their mass deportation effort, allows President Trump's cabinet to continue to identify waste, fraud, and abuse across the federal bureaucracy. So the president supports the CR, and we're hopeful and expect Republicans to get on board so we can pass it and continue moving forward implementing President Trump's agenda.
Caroline, I want to ask you about this one as well. Vice President Vance said that he and his 3-year-old daughter were followed and heckled by pro-Ukrainian protesters. Such an ugly scene. What's your reaction to what he dealt with there?
It was very sad to watch those videos and to hear directly from our vice president about this situation, especially since he was with his daughter on a walk, clearly trying to enjoy private family time. But unfortunately, this is the world and the country that we live in. But I think it's very telling that these protesters were out there hooting and hollering about Ukraine. This is who the Democrat Party has become. It's the party of foreign countries and putting America last. And I applaud the vice president. He is a man of integrity and a family man for engaging with these protesters and trying to explain to them he and President Trump's common sense point of view on this issue. But it was definitely sad to see.
He's a better man than me, because I realized that once people started to get out there to protest, really, unless you're using them for content, you can't negotiate with these people. They already got their minds made up.
Well, you know, Caroline, you and I have had the opportunity to both spend a lot of time around President Trump and Elon Musk. There's a lot of palace intrigue about what's happening in that relationship, what Elon's relationship is like with, you know, the rest of these government officials. Once and for all, can we dispel the rumors that there is some ongoing feud between Elon Musk, President Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio? What do you say about that?
I can confirm there is no such feud. In fact, I was at Mar-a-Lago last night with President Trump, Elon Musk, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and all was well.
Oh, okay. So you telling me that they just had a business conversation and it wasn't based off of, oh my God, it's a feud, we all need to go and tear the whole house down and we got beef. Okay. I'm glad that we finally get some insight, because we got the most transparent president of the United States of America inside of office right now.
President convened a meeting last week with members of his cabinet and with Elon to talk about this historic effort that everybody is on board with to identify the waste, fraud, and abuse across our federal government. And the meeting was highly productive. It was an open dialogue and discussion, which is exactly what the president's team should be doing, engaging with one another to implement the president's goals. And so everybody is on board with President Trump's mission and Doge's mission to identify this waste and fraud, to be good stewards of the American taxpayers' money. And both Elon and Marco are doing an incredible job in their respective roles. And that's true of everybody in President Trump's cabinet. He has really put together an extraordinary team. And I think it's pitiful that the mainstream media is working overtime to try to divide President Trump from Elon and from other members of his cabinet. But their attempts are failing. Everybody is working as one team towards one goal, and it's to make America great again.
So she basically just confirmed exactly what I said, is that you always want to debate what's best for the United States of America based off of your purview. If you are here, let me break it down to you from this lens. And I always like to make it relatable to the people because I'm a C student, so I want to communicate it from a C student's perspective. All right. So essentially, if you are a person that works in the finance department, you're a bean counter, and you are a person, and I love cars, so usually I'll use a car reference. I use car references for relationships. I use car references for business because I think that it's the easiest way for us to really understand what's going on, right? If you're a engineer and a designer, right? The designers put together a design, and then the engineers come in and then they say, you know what? This is what's possible. This is what's what not possible. But the designer then says, you know what? But this is what the people wants. And if we really want to be transformational as a company, then this is what we have to give them. But then the engineers say, you know what? But I don't know if that's possible because it would take us to do so much on this front for us to make your vision possible. So at some point, they clash. The CEO oversees what's happening, and then they come to a conclusion, or they meet in a happy medium or a middle and say, this is what we should do, or this is what we can't do. And then once that component is done, you bring in the accounting, you bring in the bean counters, you bring in the finance people, and they say, okay, well, engineers, what is it going to take to be able to make this happen? So then the engineers say, well, we need this, we need this, we need this, and we need this type of budget, and we need this type of spending power so that we can go over there and get our manufacturers, or we need this, outside manufacturer, we need this supplier, we need this thing, we need this much steel, we want to make it out of this, or we want to make this in carbon fiber. And then the bean counters go in and say, well, we can't do that because in order for us to do that, we'd have to sell the vehicle for $100,000. So where can you find some savings to where we can approve the budget and the R&D for you to be able to put together this vehicle so that we'll ultimately be able to be profitable as a company? Every division has to work together. Every piece of the company has to be in sync, because ultimately the only thing that we care about is whether or not we are super profitable as a company, which also gives value back to the shareholders. The shareholders in this instance happen to be the American people. And then you have the CEO, who was brought in by the board to kind of oversee and execute the vision and pick and choose what products and what to green light and what to scrap, and then what to use as a concept that we then take elements out of it. Maybe you want the headlights to be a little bit different. Maybe you want the design language going forward. Maybe you want a different naming scheme and structure. Maybe we want to lower the price of vehicles. Maybe we want to create halo vehicles that we then have filter back into the design language of all of the vehicles that come after it. But ultimately, there's different things and different competing visions based off of what your expertise is that feed into the vision of what we need to be executing as a company. And the company in this instance is the United States of America. So when you see this rambling, when you see this fighting, when you see these people competing, going back and forth, ultimately it is to do what is in the best interest of America, but it doesn't mean that they're not friends after they leave that board and cabinet meeting. It means that they had to put their business hats on, and now we put our friendship hats on. You get it now? Do you understand it a little bit better? Do you understand why you cannot always be friends with the people that you do business with? Sometimes you have to put your business hats on. When I go out with Rita, right, on Saturdays, or usually it's on Sundays, and we usually do it over breakfast, and most of the time my daughter is there, and sometimes my daughter's out of town or she's taking care of some business and doing something else. But we have a family meeting. And I take off my dad hat, and she takes off her mother hat, and Leslie takes off her daughter hat, and we all look at each other respectively and respectively as business partners, because I need my daughter to do her part in order for me to be able to do what I need to do, and for Rita to do what she need to do. And it all works together, and we understand that everybody doing what they're supposed to do ultimately leads into the best results for everybody else. And so I need them to tell me the truth. I don't want them to tell me what I want to hear. We need to go over this whole thing and this vision about how we going to build this house and what is the budget for this particular thing. And Leslie, I need to get your insight and your understanding on what people are saying from a different lens as far as, I need your fresh view, your fresh insight, and what is the new competing technologies and how we need to market these things differently and all of this stuff. And so we look at everything from a business perspective. I don't look at my daughter as a child or a 17-year-old when I'm talking to her at breakfast. I'm looking for her to tell me the truth so that I can make the best decision possible. And she may say, Dad, nah, I don't like that. That's not a smart idea. And this extends into everything. This is not just business. We talk about future travel plans. I may be saying, okay, so what international trip are we going to take, right? And then my daughter will say, and this is one of the things that she says, listen, we supposed to go to Dubai this year. And then another person says, well, you know what? I want to go back to Japan. Then I say, okay, well, listen, I know you want to do this. I know you want to do this. What else is on the table, right? And then they say, well, you know what? We haven't all been to Dubai yet. Let's consider Dubai. Okay, cool. Well, what are we flying? We go through, we pull it all up. We all sitting there with our computers. You know what? Emirates is the best experience. But wait a minute. If we all fly Emirates and we go first, then that's going to be $47,000, between $47,000 and $50,000. Then I say, okay, well, that's a great experience. And then Leslie will come in and say, but Dad, I was on TikTok and I was on Instagram and I was looking at them both, and business class and first class is very similar. And I say, okay, well, Rita, you tell me from a financial perspective, what's the difference? Rita says, well, the difference is $17,000 for business class and $47,000 for first class. Let's say, okay, well, that's a $30,000 difference, $30,000 difference. And then what is the one before that? Well, we can get an economy class for like $4,000 or whatever, so on and so forth. I say, okay, cool. So we're going to eliminate economy class because we care more about experiences, but I need y'all to sell me on the value proposition between paying $30,000 more for first versus business class. We go through, okay, so listen, this is how long the flight is. The flight is going to be like 19 hours. Okay, well, what do we have to fly? Oh, you're going to fly an hour over to Toronto, and then we take the flight. It's going to be an 18-hour flight over to Dubai. Okay, cool. What else is going on? What's the difference? Sell me on the difference between business class and first class. Oh, okay, so first class, you get a shower, but then business class is the same as you go on Delta One. You still get a bed, you still get to lay down. And so they take off the hats that they have as far as the bias of looking at me as the father or the husband, and they start looking at it from a business perspective because they understand that we are now having a different type of discussion instead of the friendships. Now, when we leave the restaurant, everything is still in the past. Everything, the business hats come off, and then we go back to our traditional roles. But I need people around me, whether you work for me, whether you add value, if you are a friend in my life, if you are a person that adds value into my life, if you spend an extended amount of time, if you're a content creator around me, if you are a daughter, no matter what it is, I need people around me that add value into the conversation and not just there because they want to agree with me and they know when and when not to take the hats off. That's the way that I look at the situation, personally. That's the way that I look at the situation. I look at it differently. All right? Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. And let's say this too, because I know y'all sitting there saying, "Oh, rich people problems." Listen. I've been running my family. I've been running my businesses. I've been running my studios. I've been running content creation the same way. The same way that I am at work and the same way that I am in corporate is the same way that I am at home. It's the same way that I am in the studio. It's the same way everywhere. You have to take, if you only think that people do this when they get rich and they are not doing this, and that is the reason that they get to certain levels in their life, then you are miscalculating, you are misunderstanding, you truly don't understand how people get to the spaces that they are. You don't get to college and then start to turn it on and then start to, you know what, I'm going to put my studying hat on. No, that's the person that you was in high school. That's the person that you was in middle school. You've been conditioned to be this way. When you get to college, all you're doing is taking a different curriculum, taking a different set of classes, taking a different environment, taking a different university, and implementing it. You need to be running your household as a business. If your budget is $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, because that is what you take home, then you need to be operating it and doing it like a business. I was the same way when I was making $100,000 a year, $80,000 a year, $70,000 a year, I was running my house the same way as whatever it is that I make now. You have to look at it from a business perspective. Take the numbers and then, or take the situation and then break it down to whatever your respective budget is. And maybe, you know what? I don't want to do it.